everyone, welcome back to my channel. Happy Bookmas. We're almost through with Bookmas. I feel like a lot of my Bookmas videos have been kind of wrap-ups. Today is kind of no different from that, but before you click off, we have a little bit of a fun twist to a wrap-up today. I was gonna go ahead and film a book tag, like an end of the year book tag, but then I saw this idea on TikTok to do superlatives. If you don't know what a superlative is, it's like at the end of the year when you're in school and the yearbook comes out and it's most likely to be famous in 10 years, or best car, or best smile, or most photogenic. So those are what superlatives are, and I have 20 bookish superlatives for you guys today, and each of the winners of each superlative is a book that I read in 2024. So it's kind of like a book tag, but it's a little bit more fun in my opinion. So grab a drink, sit down with me, we're gonna be yapping about some books, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. Okay, first I have Most Likely to Make You Cry, and I picked Love of My Afterlife by Christy Greenwood for this superlative. This one was hard for me to pick from because I feel like a lot of books didn't make me cry this year. I feel like I didn't really read any sad books, but this one made me tear up a good amount. I cried. I say tear up, but I definitely cried while reading this. There's a plot twist in this that really shocked me and I cried. So next I have Most Likely to Be a Movie, and for this one I picked Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, not just because it deals with rom-coms and has movies in the title, but I genuinely can see this one being remade into a movie. In my opinion, I think the movie could be really cool. It's super self-aware, since Liz really loves rom-coms. I think they could do a kind of self-aware moment in it, kind of think Scream, if you've ever seen Scream, when they're #1 rule of a scary movie is don't go in the room. But I feel like they could do that with this, since Liz really loves rom-coms and is trying to make her life this one big rom-com. I think this would be the perfect little rom-com to bring back rom-coms, you know what I mean? We haven't had a good rom-com in a while, and I think this one could really do it. Next I have Best Character Development, and for that I picked Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. At the beginning of this book we have our main character Allie, who is going through this divorce. She's not really finding herself, and she doesn't really know who she is outside of her job. She's this professional organizer, so she goes into people's houses and organizes their whole life, you know, the TikTok organization talk. That's what she does. And so at first she kind of just doesn't know who she is outside of her husband, who she's divorcing, outside of her job. And so when she meets our male main character Ethan, she kind of starts to find herself. But I will say, she doesn't just find herself in this book with Ethan. It's not a boy helps her find herself. She definitely finds herself throughout this book, just with kind of a nudge from Ethan. Ethan brings out a different side in her, and so by the end of the book she definitely has a huge character development. Don't want to spoil it, but just know that Ellie goes through a lot in this book, and Annabelle Monaghan does a really good job of pushing that kind of deeper theme, but also it's still very rom-com-y. It's super funny, it's super sweet, it's super cutesy, but that little theme in there and finding yourself in divorce is still there. And Allie goes through it in this book, but by the end she comes out such a much better person. Our fourth superlative is Most Likely to Be Read in One Sitting, and for this one I picked Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. This is a novella, so obviously it can be read in one sitting. It also is only an audiobook, so it can really only be listened to in one sitting. So obviously it's very short. I think the audiobook is maybe 4 hours long, but I genuinely think it's a well done novella. I know sometimes novellas can be too short and then it's okay, why did we even read this? But Ali Hazelwood is so good. I love Ali Hazelwood's writing, and this one was really good. The characters in it were great, the plot line was great, and so this is just so bingeable. Totally recommend. Our fifth superlative is Most Likely to Cause a Debate, and for that I picked Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. Of course this book's plot is super silly, but what R.F. Kuang is getting to when she's writing this book is whether or not white authors should or should not be writing about cultures that they know nothing about, even if they do their research, if they do extensive research. whether or not they should be able to write those stories, or if those stories should be saved for someone who is of that culture. So obviously this one is gonna strike a debate, and R.F. Kuang does this perfectly within her book because, like I said, the plot is super silly. One of our, I guess, main characters dies within like the first couple of chapters, and we have like an insufferable character. So R.F. Kuang does a very good job of doing this. Our sixth superlative is best opening line, and this one took me a little while also to find, but when I picked up this book for another superlative, because it won 2 superlatives, I read the first line and I thought that it was funny. So the winner for best opening line is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and the opening line is r/am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for naming my ugly dog after my ex-best friend? And that's like the opening. I mean, right off the bat, I'm hooked. Like, what? Like, that's so funny. And I'm also just always hooked on the Reddits, the Am I the Asshole Reddits, because they're funny. I feel like Abby Jimenez is the only person who can kind of insert that like real life, like when people talk about TikTok is what I'm getting at. I hate that, but when she was like talking about this and Reddit throughout the book, it didn't bother me because she's so good at it. But yeah, obviously right off the bat, first liner, you're like, okay, like we need more of the story. And then that rest of that paragraph goes into like the actual story, just like a Reddit post would, like you have like the subline. So yeah. For our seventh superlative, I have most thought-provoking, and for this I picked None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is a thriller that I listened to earlier this year and it had me hooked, but by the end I genuinely was so confused. I was dumbfounded. If you've read this book, you understand what I'm saying. It's kind of like, it's just like weird. Like the way it ends is like crazy, and I remember just going down this spiral in my head being like, what the hell just happened? Like, what did I just read? How are you gonna tell me this ended? And that's just like where we're at. So definitely most thought-provoking. Our eighth superlative is most likely to be your next favorite series, and for this I picked the Entangled with Fae series, specifically Heart of the Raven Prince, because that's the one I read this year. But genuinely, I think that this has grounds to be everyone's new favorite series. If you love Disney princesses and you love a retelling, you definitely need to get onto this. It's like a romantic-y retelling of, specifically this one was a retelling of Cinderella, but the first one I'm pretty sure is Snow White, and then we have Ariel, and there's a lot more other ones that I am dying to get to next year. So I feel like this is not only gonna be my new favorite series, but I think it could be yours as well. And then for our ninth superlative, I have best world building. And to be honest, I didn't read that many fantasies this year. I don't know why. I guess I was just in a romance kick this year. So this might be cheating because I've already read it and this was a reread, but I picked Agatar by Sarah J. Maas because I love this book. Like, I don't know. I've already talked about this in a lot of my other videos, but this one gets a lot of hate for no reason in my opinion. You do get most of the world building in the first one. That's why I picked this one specifically. We get Feyre's backstory, we get the world building between what's going on between the humans and the Fae, we get the Spring Court world building, we get Under the Mountain and all that stuff. And it really is just grounds for the rest of the series, like for sure. So definitely best world building. Is it the best world building of any fantasy ever? No, like I can acknowledge that. But out of the fantasies that I read this year, it probably was. But yeah, our 10th superlative is best romance. And if you know me, you know what I'm gonna pick. And it's gonna be yours truly by Abby Jimenez. This was by far my favorite book that I read this year. I keep saying last year, we're still in 2024. It's definitely my favorite book I read this year. It's definitely my favorite romance that I've ever read so far in my lifetime. Everything about this book is so special to me, and to be honest, you might not like connect to this on the same way I did, but I totally resonate with our male main character in this, and so it just made it that much more special to me. The way Abby Jimenez was able to pen to paper write someone that feels like me inside was just, it was so exciting to read, because I feel like most of the time either anxiety isn't written about in books or it's just totally misrepresented, and so I feel like Abby Jimenez definitely does it justice in this book. Everything about this is just perfect. Like, I have no other words for you besides this is perfection, and that is why it won best romance. Our next superlative is most likely to make you laugh, and for that I picked A Funny Story by Emily Henry, not just because it says funny in the title, but because genuinely the banter in this is very hilarious. I feel like I don't typically like giggle or laugh while reading books, but Emily Henry definitely has the gift to make me do that. Like, I was literally sitting there like, ee, like kicking my feet laughing at the characters in this. It's genuinely funny. I feel like a lot of the times humor in books, especially romances, can come across very cringy, but Emily Henry definitely knows how to do it, and I was laughing the whole time. Our 12th superlative is best cover art, and this book already won a superlative, but it won a second one, and that is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I was gonna pick The Love of My Afterlife, but I just love the way this like encapsulates everything in this book. The way, it's definitely my favorite Abby Jimenez cover. Like, I don't know, like just seeing this, I would want to pick it up. You know what I mean? I feel like there's not much more to talk about besides the fact that it's so pretty. And when it was in Barnes when it first came out, I was just like dying to pick it up. You know what I mean? I judge books by their covers, and this one has a great one. 13th superlative is most likely to read again. And for that, I picked Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, our second Ali Hazelwood of this video. Also, my dog ate the corner, so please just ignore that. For some reason, after putting this book down, I immediately had an itch to read it again. I genuinely loved this book. It's definitely my favorite Ali Hazelwood book that I've read so far. It's still STEM, it's still that like STEM romance, but it's a little bit more spicy than any of her other books. But something about the characters in this and the way the plot progresses, I genuinely loved it. And like I said, as soon as I put it down, I was like, I want to read it again. And when I was picking the superlatives for this, I immediately was like, okay, it's gotta be this one, because I'm like dying to read it again. Like, I might read it again in the near future, so just beware of that. Next, we have Most Likely to End Up on the Beach, and for that I picked 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hilderbrand. Of course, this one is most likely to end up on a beach. I feel like Ellen Hilderbrand's books are the perfect beach book. Like, you can tell by this cover that it's gonna be like beachy. Most of her books take place on Nantucket, which is this very beachy town, like small town, like touristy vibes. So not much more to say than if you're going to the beach, you need to pick up some kind of Ellen Hilderbrand book. It might not be this one, it might be a different one, but this is the one that I read this year, so this is the one that won. Next, I have Most Likely to Be Read on a Rainy Day. That I picked The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. Right off the bat from the cover, this is giving fall vibes, it's giving cozy, it's giving rainy day vibes. In my opinion, it's just so cozy. It's a very quick read. It's definitely a palate cleanser, and so I feel like with these vibes and the knowledge that this is just a chill read, you have to read it on a rainy day. Something about it. It's just like a fall rainy day with a cup of like hot cocoa or coffee or tea, whatever is your vibe. Pick up this book and I promise you, you're gonna have a great time. For our 16th superlative, I have Most Likely to Be DNF'd. And for that, I picked Fall Into You because, to be honest, I wish I DNF'd this book, especially since it was for a video that didn't end up getting put out because the footage got fucked up. So I kind of like put myself through this torture just to finish it for the video, and I did not like it at all. It's a brother's best friend and it was done absolutely horribly. It was just not fun. It was super toxic. The whole time I was rolling my eyes. I was so mad that this book was it just kept going. It like never ended. So I think that this one would most likely be DNF'd. I was getting those vibes from the Goodreads ratings as well. Doesn't mean you will enjoy it, but in my opinion, I wish I would have DNF'd it. Next, I have Most Likely to Not Be Worth the Hype, and for that I picked Silent Patience by Alex Michaelides. This has been around Book Talk forever. Since the dawn of Book Talk, this book has been there, and people rave it so much. I see it everywhere I go. Target, Walmart, Barnes, places that aren't bookstores, it's there. Like, it's genuinely there. It's been taking over my life forever, and so I finally got around to reading it, and it just did not do it for me. The twist didn't twist. It was written well, I'll give it that, but to be honest, it just wasn't worth the hype. And maybe I would have liked it more if it wasn't so hyped up. Who knows? But overall, it's just like I didn't need to read it, you know what I mean? For our 18th superlative, I have Most Unforgettable, and I picked Bride by Ali Hazelwood for this. I just realized that's 3 Ali Hazelwood books. I feel like this one was most unforgettable for me in a bad way, if you know what I mean. First of all, it was my first like vampire werewolf romance. I know that can be very popular, but I've never read one. So that was like my first like supernatural romance ever. And also it was just like very like daunting. Like, it was unforgettable in the fact that like I was just like, okay, I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit icked out the whole time. It's not for me. Like it's okay if it's for you, I get it. But for me, it was not for me. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to. But if you've read it and you just know, you know what I mean? Like I don't even want to like think about the book because it makes me start laughing. Like I literally start like cringing a little bit when I think about it. So it's most unforgettable in a bad way for me. I get it though, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to yuck y'all's yum, but our second to last superlative is most surprising, and for that I picked A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Overall, I went into this very blind. I really only picked it up because it was a new release in the month that I filmed my reading new releases for a week vlog. So that was genuinely like the only reason I picked it up, and I genuinely loved this. Like I'll definitely be diving into more T. Kingfisher. It was such a quick, refreshing read. It was like fairy tale fantasy-esque. It wasn't a very hard read, but it was just like super well written and super fun. It was hard for me to put this down. I think about it often still. So overall, this was just very shocking to me, but I'm so glad that I found it because I haven't even heard like anything about this, and I still haven't. So I'm just glad that I found this book. Alrighty guys, our last superlative, our 20th superlative is best overall. So my favorite book of the year, and I feel like I've already said it in this video. So it's not gonna come as a shock, but I did go ahead and go with Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. But this book's really spiked my love for Abby Jimenez. I ended up going and reading her backlist after reading this one because I needed more. Of course, none of them hit the same as this one did, or else they would be in this spot. I'm not gonna bore you. I'm not gonna talk your ear off about this book because I already named it Best Romance. But this book totally altered my brain chemistry. It totally altered my life. I feel like it altered me as a reader. I know that's crazy to say about a romance novel, but genuinely nothing will ever come close to this book. I feel like it does. That is crazy because I hold so much love in my heart for this book. It's crazy to say, I know. But the way that Abby Jimenez can write a romance novel that's funny but also so deep at the same time is genuinely insane to me. She is crazy, like she's insane. And every day since reading this earlier this year, I probably have thought about this book, the characters, the plot line, everything about this book at least once a day. So that is why it's best overall. Like I said, I'm not gonna talk y'all's ear off about it. Y'all have heard enough. I get it, but I truly just like cannot like even describe my love for this book. Alrighty, that was the 20 superlatives that I had for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the silly little like concept. I had a lot of fun coming up with the superlatives and then going on my bookshelf and picking out the books. It was a little bit hard for some of them. Obviously, Allie Hazelwood had her year with me this year, which is good. I love Allie Hazelwood. I thought that this would be a little bit fun, different idea from doing like a book tag. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And with that, I'll just see you guys next time. Bye.